Daf Nun Hey Amud Aleph, the first line right at the top of the Amud. Ubechol Malkam Talmidei Chachamim. The Mishnah said that it's a minhag whether to work or not on Tisha B'Av, but in any event, Talmidei Chachamim should not work. They should not be Mesiach Das from the Churban. And Rosh Gamliel says a person should conduct himself like a Talmid Chacham. And it's not a concern of Yehura, of Gaiva. He should conduct himself like a Talmid Chacham in this regard and not work on Tisha B'Av. So Lameima means to say that Rabbi Shimon Gamliel that Rabbi Gamliel is not concerned about the appearance of Gaiva. Rabbanan Savi Chashin Yehura, and Rabbanan say we are Chayshes. But we learn just the opposite. We learned in the Mishnah, Brachos Disnan, Achasan, Im Yirtza, Likros Kriyashma, Laila Rishayna, Arishan Kaira. Krishma has to have a kavanah. The Chasan, the first night, he is preoccupied, he's tired with the mitzvah of having relations with his wife, of being boil the kala. So the Chasan is pointed from Krishma. But if he wants to, if he feels that he can have proper kavanah, then if he wants to say Krishma the first night, Kaira, he can. But Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, he says, like kol hareitza litas Hashem yitol. But Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says no, that he can't. Not everybody could take upon himself the name of somebody who is able to have kavanah, that he's mafresh himself from Olam Hazeh to the point where he can have kavanah in those circumstances. So apparently, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is chayesh for Yehura, for Gaiva, and it seems to be just the opposite of what we're saying over here. He says we have to reverse the shita. Some discussion in the Achronim. Which way do we say it's reversed? That who holds what? Which do we reverse the Mishnah in Brachas, or do we reverse the Mishnah over here in our Masechet? Al Kopanim, we say it to reconcile it. We say that it's reversed. Taisus Yontov says that the one that reversed, it's the Mishnah in Brachas that it's reversed. So Rav Yechon says Muchleves Ashit. The Rav Shisha Braid Rav Omar, he says Loy Tepuch. He says no, you don't have to reverse it. The Rabban like Kash, he says the steer and the Rabban, it's not a Kash, it's not a stira. Why is that? Hacha came in the Kuli Alma of the Malacha. Here, if everyone else is doing Malacha, it's only a Talmidei Chacham watch. It's in the place where the minhag is that they do Malacha. And only Talmidei Chacham don't. And if this person is not going to work, it looks like it's Gaivadik. Aval Hasam came with the Kuli Alma Kare, but over there everyone's saying Krishma. And if this Chasan conducts himself like everybody else, then meaning it's only Mechzik Yehura over here, because he's doing different than the majority of the people. So that looks Gaivadik. But over there, the Chasan is conducting himself like most of the people. And the Rav Shimon ben Gamliel Lakash, it's also not a stira, because Hasam who divine and kavana over there. Why does he say that lo yikol hareitza litos Hashem yitol? Because Krishma needs kavana. V'anan sahadi delay matzi kavnei dait, and it's an ansari that he's not capable of doing it under those circumstances. So mechsekiur, if he says Krishma, he recites Krishma, it looks like Gaivadik. That's something where people assume that cannot be done, and he is presenting himself as somebody that could do what most people can't do. That looks like Gaiva. But over here, Rosh Gamliel says it doesn't look like Gaiva, like Yehura. Why? Because he's not working. Other people, most people work. The people will say, Malachi the last line. They'll say, well, he just doesn't have work. He's unemployed. He doesn't have work to do. Go and see in this market, there's many people that don't work. There are many Batlanim that don't work in the market. So therefore, they won't necessarily attribute it to the fact that he has work and he's not working because he's conducting himself like Talmid Chacham. So therefore, Shimon Gamliel says, therefore, in this case, he can conduct himself like a Talmid Chacham, and it's loy mechzik Yehura. Zok the Mishnah. So coming back to Erev Pesach, about working on Erev Pesach, remember they say, Yehuda yoisim melocha b'arvei pesachim al chatzos. He says in Yehuda they would work in Erev Pesach till chatzos. Ubegolel lo yoisim kol iker. And in Golil they didn't work at all. The entire day they didn't work. We'll see in the Gemara what the machlokes is over here and how it relates into the previous Mishnah. So that is as far as working in the daytime. What about Halayla, about the night of the 14th of Yudal Nisan? Beis Shammai, Oisrim, Beis Shammai says it's also Beis Hillel, Matir, Adan, Netzach Chama. Beis Hillel says it's mutter the entire night, it's mutter, the Isra only starts, Netzach Chama. So it's machlokes if it starts from the night or not. The Bartanura explains as follows. By Yontiv, by Shabbos, we start from the night before. So Yontiv, we start the night before. Erev Pesach, where the Isser, where those who Aser, similar to Yontiv, they start the night before. That's Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel says, compare it to a Tanis. Tanis only starts in the daytime. So here also it does not start from the night before, it only starts in the daytime. Why does it start at Netzach Chama? Normally things that start in the daytime start at Aleisa Shachar. So Taisus and Daf Beis on Beis is the mashmos is because the Isser is related to work. Work, people go to work at Netz when the sun is out. When the sunrise, that's when they go to work. They don't go to work from Alois. So therefore, the Isser begins when people normally would work. That's when the Isser begins. Initially, we started the parak Malkum Shanagu. We started it on Daf Nun. The Mishnah says the Tana says that the Isser Malacha depends on the Minhag Malkum. Whatever the custom is, the minhag in a certain place. Now here, in our Mishnah, it says as far as night goes, it says Beis Shammai Oisrim. So it seems to be the issue of a Malacha is whether it's also whether the Rabbanan were geyser and Isser or not simply on minhag. Amar Rabbi Yechon, it says like Kash, it's not a Kash. Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda. There's a difference between the shita of Rabbi Yehuda and the Tana. The first Mishnah is going one way, it's totally on minhag. As we'll see, that's the shita of Rabbi Meir. And our Tana over here is going that the issue is an Isser, whether there's an Isser, and that's a shita of Rabbi Yehuda, as we'll see. So, how Rabbi Meir, how Rabbi Yehuda? The side we learned in the Baraisa, Amar Rabbi Yehuda says, Yehuda yoisim melocha b'arvei pesachim ad chatzos. In Yehuda, they worked in Erev Pesach till chatzos. Ubegolel, ein yoisim kol iker, and in Golel, they didn't work at all the entire day. Amar Rabbi Meir said to him, my raya, Yehuda v'golel kan. What raya are you bringing from there to here? It all depends on the minhag of Malkum. Where the minhag is to work, you can work. Whether it's not, it's not. So what do you bring Mariah from Yehuda Go? Now we see clearly that Rabbi Meir says it's dependent on the local minhag. So in the Kama, Rabbi Meir Minhag, Rabbi Meir says the issue is minhag and Meklal, Rabbi Yehuda Yisur Kama. So Rabbi Yehuda therefore holds it's Yisur. So Rabbi Yehuda says that it's an Isser. There is different psak in different places that where they paskin that it's Osir or not. Whether the issue was whether they were geyser this Isser on Erev Pesach in the morning or not. It's a question of Isser. Rabbi Meir says it's not an issue of Isser. It's not a question of Isser. It's minhag. So the first Mishnah says Malkum Shanago, that's from Meir's totally on a minhag. Over here, Beis Shammai Oisrim, that's a shita of Yehuda, that the issue is whether there's an Isser. There were guys that are an Isser. Rabbi Yehuda Mutar Basis Malacha. Is it so that Rabbi Yehuda says that you can do Malacha in Akopanim in Yehuda? It's mutar to do Malacha. Tanya, we learned in a brayso, Rabbi Yehuda Omer, he says, if a person weeds his field on the 13th day of Nisan, and some grain got uprooted while he was weeding it, some grain got uprooted. Now the issue over here is that on the 16th day of Nisan, the chodesh is mutter. The new crop becomes mutter. It only is matir. The korban ha'omer, the 16th of Nisan, is only matir crops which already have taken root by that time. Crops which have not taken root by that time are not mutter. They're not mutter until next year's omer. So now here, he uprooted what was growing, but he uprooted it on the 13th. Now he wants to ensure that it takes root by the omer, because otherwise, if it doesn't, it will be aser. And there's a halachic issue involved here, not only a practical one, is that if that grain is aser, and it now gets mixed in with the other grains which are mutter, the person will think that this is also mutter. And he might come to eat this grain before the zman of the omer, before the zman of the omer that's matir, when it's really a chodesh. So he might eat it mistakenly with the other crops, which will be mutter by the 16th of Nisan. This won't be until the following year, and he'll come to eat it. So therefore, we want to ensure that he replants it, it takes root, so that it also becomes mutter with this year's omer. So what do we do? So if it's nekra biyodai, shaisla b'mokamat, he replants it in a place where there's moist, where there's moist earth, that it will quickly take root. But he doesn't replant it in a dry place, which will take longer to take root. So we have to ensure that he replants it so that it will take root before the omer. Now we say b'shloish al sarin. It's only on the 13th that he can do it. But if it be later, but if it be the 14th, he can't. Why not? So mechti shamina l'Rabbi Yehuda the Omar kol ahar kavish ena kaletz l'shleisha yomim shuv ena kaletzes. Then we know that Rabbi Yehuda says that within 3 days it will take root. If it doesn't take root within 3 days, it's not going to something deficient. But normally replanting, says over here, grafting, but it's first replanting as well, will take root within 3 days. So now, if that's the case, why can't you have the scenario even on the 14th of Nisan? Why dafka on the 13th? If it's mutter to do malacha, meaning to plant on the 14th, why does he say dafka that the 13th, meaning the deadline to do this is on the 13th? Now we have a principle of mixas hayom kekula. So if he's allowed to plant on the 14th, why can't you have this scenario even on the 14th? And he replants it on the 14th. You have part of the 14th, all of the 15th of Nisan, and part of the 16th. You have mixas yom kekula, and you have your 3 days, and therefore it will have taken root by the time of the omer. So doesn't that show you that he holds that the 14th is also, and that's why he said it on the 13th, that the deadline is the 13th, because the 14th is also we're talking over here by Golo, where the minig is to also it even in the 14th, in the morning of the 14th. Well, you have the nighttime. Why don't you say that the deadline is the 14th, not the 13th, the 14th at night? Amar Sheshes Kevei Shammai. That's going according to Beis Shammai, who says it's also at night. Rav Ashi Amar Lo like a Beis Hill. You don't have to say and b'deichik that it's going like Beis Shammai, even like Beis Hill. The Fishein Darkan Shal Bnei Adam Lo Nachish B'Layla is talking in the normal way. People don't normally pull out the weeds. They don't normally weed at night, and this scenario normally would not occur at night. So that's why in the daytime scenario, the deadline would be the 13th in Golel, where the minig is not to work on the 14th. Ravina Omar, he says, Yehuda, I can tell you, it's really telling Yehuda. Why is the deadline the 13th, not the 14th? Ubashash Rosha, because here we're talking about a physical occurrence. And we're talking, is it going to physically take root by the time of the omer? Ubashrasha, and as far as taking the plant, taking a root, Chad mixes Hayam Kekula Amrina. Trey mixes Hayam Kekula Lo Yamrina. We over here to say that it'll be mutter by the Aimer, we have to say that it's within a 3-day period. Now, if you're saying it's on the 13th, then you'd have part of the 13th, then you'd have the 14th and the 15th, so you would only be relying on a partial one mixes a Yom Kippur. But if you say it takes place on the 14th, then you have to say that the 14th is mixes a Yom Kippur. You have the entire 15th, and then the 16th is also mixes a Yom Kippur. Then you'd be relying on 2 mixes a Yom Kippurs. So in effect, you're saying that it's in a period of time which is only 1 full day and 2 partial days. Now, even though we say mixes Yom Kippur, but that's in a halachic determination. But over here, it has to physically take root. And with that short period of time, we won't say Bahashrasha, we don't say 2 mixes Yom Kippurs. That's why he said it's on the 13th. That's why the deadline is the 13th. Not because it's usher to plant on the 14th. Rabbi Yehuda holds it's mutter to plant on the 14th. But because it has to take root by the time of the Omer, and therefore the deadline for that is the 13th of Nis. But Rabbi Yehuda himself holds that Yud Dalet is mutter basiyas malach. Zok the Mishnah Rameir Omer Kol Malacha Shehiskol Ba'Kayim L'Arba Asar, any malacha, any labor that once started before the 14th of Nisan, Goyim Rabba Asar, you can finish it off on the 15th. But he can't start it. He can't begin it on the 14th. He can't start it. Something that was started from before, he can complete it on the 14th, but he can't start something on the 14th. And even if it's something that he started and he can finish by Chatzayis, nevertheless, he cannot do it. He can't start it. There are 3 trades that one can do on Erev Pesach until Chatzayis. Ve'elohein, hachayatim, the tailors, aporim, the barbers, v'akaisim, and the launderers. Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehuda Omer afratzanim, he says the shoemakers as well. We'll see in the Gemara what's the significance of these trades. Iboila, so the Gemara Iboila, we have a shayla letzarach ma'itzanan. When Rameir said that you can't begin something on the 14th, and even if you're going to finish it by Chatzayis, are we talking even if it's something that's needed for the Moed? But if it's not needed for the Moed, if it's not needed for Pesach, afila migmar nami loi, that you can't even complete something. Is that what he means? He means to say that even if it's l'tzarach hamayid, you can only complete something and not start it. It's not l'tzarach hamayid, you can't even complete something. Or perhaps it's shaloi l'tzarach hamayid tanan, that when we say that you can't begin something, that's only if it's not for the purpose of the moed. But if it's for the purpose of maschalina, you can not only complete, you can even start something and have it finished by chatzayis if it's l'tzarach hamayid. Or perhaps there's no chilik, that whether it's needed for the moed or not, migmar in as chuliloi, you can only complete, but you can't start. Tashma, let's bring a right from the following braysa. You don't start a malacha to begin with on the 14th. Afil tziltzul kot, and even a small belt. Afil svach ketana, small hairnet. Even a small hairnet that they used to put covering the hair, even that you can't do. So my afilo, what does it mean? Even these things does it not mean lav afilo ahanef l'tzarach hamayed. These things are needed for the mayed, a belt, a hairnet. So even this, and it says lo yaschil migvar in aschulei loy. You can only complete. You can't start it. So even these, which are tzarech hamayit, michlal d'shalei tzarech, migmar nami legamrinan. So can't you infer, therefore, from this that michlal, if it's not l'tzarech, you cannot even complete something that was begun before. You can't even complete it. Whereas it's like you can't bring a raya from here. La'olam d'shalei l'tzarech, migmar nami gamrinan. Maybe I'll tell you that it's shalei l'tzarech, that migmar nami gamrinan. If you can even finish it, as long as you don't start it, even if it's not for the tzarech hamayit, you could complete it. Maya filo, what does it mean over here? It says that even these small items, what does it mean, afilu? Afilu hani nami dezuchinin. Means to say, even these which are very small. Desalta daitach amina hascholazu avagamar malachta, and I might have thought that since they're so small, it's equivalent to completing something which has already begun before. Meaning, even normally something if you haven't started it from before, only starting it now is considered a major malacha. So a major malacha you can't do. You can complete something. But these which are so small, I might think the aschol is like the Gemara. Starting it is like finishing it. It doesn't require that much from beginning to end. So I might think it's mutter. So therefore, naschol behu nami lachatchila, I might think you can start it to begin with. Mashmalan, that even these small items, that even though they're so small, that you cannot begin them on your dalet.